welcome tonight. We're glad to see everybody in the audience. This is the regularly scheduled meeting of the Constantine Village Council, March 3rd, 2025, March meeting. We'll open the meeting at 7:02 p.m. And I'll ask our clerk if she would call roll, please.
M. Mathers. Yes, here. T. Mathers.
Here.
Lawrence.
Here.
King.
Here.
Steers.
Here.
Denman.
Here.
Piper. Here.
Okay, all trustees present. Would please stand and join me in the pledge of allegiance for a pledge. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
May I speak to the agenda?
Yes, sir.
There are two items that have been asked to add, one by trustee King, one by trustee Steers. Those two items are golf cart ordinance, that would be under new business C. And the other one would be a fire station update, that would be under unfinished business E.
Okay.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to accept the agenda as amended.
Sorry. Motion by Dick Lawrence, seconded by Eric Steers to approve the agenda as amended. Any discussion or comment? All in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Yes. Opposed, no. Motion carries. And the next, starting on page 3, the minutes from our 2/17/2025 meeting.
I'll make a motion to accept the regular meeting minutes.
Sorry. Before that, I just wanted to reiterate again that my email in this is either incorrect, or if this is an email you created for me.
I think you told me that at the last meeting.
Yeah.
Sorry. No, not right now for Crystal, but add that or correct that in the newsletter.
Okay.
You should have an active email.
I have an email personally, but if this is an email that was created for me,
Get with me, I'll straighten it out.
okay. Yeah, I don't have passwords or
I have to
anything.
get with you too, because I know you did mine.
I don't have the one they issued me, I just use my personal. Cause I don't want forced emails.
Okay.
I do have a question on the minutes where it's payment of the bills. Should we have the dollar amount in there that we paid, or?
Should be, yeah.
Also on page 5, number 4, there's a typo on, I think,
Which one?
Opine.
Mark voted behind.
Page 5. Right there.
I didn't do this one.
It's not in the minutes from last week.
Oh, really?
2:02, yeah. You're talking about last meeting, or the current meeting? You're talking about last meeting, you're talking about the minutes?
The minutes?
Yeah.
Yeah, should the dollar amount be in there that we paid?
Yeah, and I show it was 202-870-83. And that was for the meeting of February 17, 2025.
Correct.
We did approve it.
Okay, so
But
the
we
dollar,
didn't have
you want the
dollar
dollar
amount.
amount in it, okay.
Yeah. 202-870-83.
No change, double zeros.
Right.
Okay.
202-870-83.
$802,870.83.
Okay, well, I haven't heard of regular meeting minutes acceptance, motion yet. It hasn't been-
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes from February 18th. No, I'm
Support.
sorry, February 17th.
Support.
The back page, oh yeah, that would be special meeting minutes.
Okay, there is a motion to accept the regular meeting minutes of 2/17/25, motion by Piper, seconded by King. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Please say no. The motion carries. Now we go to the special meeting minutes of 2/18/2025.
I'll make a motion to accept the special meeting minutes of 2/18/2025 as presented.
Second.
Okay, motion by trustee Lawrence, supported by trustee Denman to accept the special meeting minutes of 2/18/2025 as presented. Discussion on that? All in favor, say yes.
Yes.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Now we come to this week's bills.
I have a question, it's not really about a bill. On page 6, the projected completion schedule for the treatment plant, it says operational 8/19/2025, correct?
What's that?
Page 6. Mark? Or is it-
Oh, I'm sorry, page 6, not
6.
5. I'm sorry.
6.
Yes, that's really in there for your information.
That wasn't my question. My question is, have we found somebody to run it yet?
Not yet,
Have
no,
we
but,
tried? I mean, it's,
no, we have not tried yet. I've had a meeting, scheduled with, Fleece and Vandenbrink to try to strategize how to look for someone to run it, so.
because they have to be licensed and all that, right?
That would be what?
They don't have to have a license to run that?
Oh, yeah,
Yeah, okay.
yeah.
That's what I thought.
Actually, I think it's two different types of licenses.
All right.
Actually, equipment startup is July 1st.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Whoever we get should be there.
Okay, the bills, I have our standard bills, normal month-to-month bills, $14,870.44. There is the tanker truck purchase that the village paid the whole amount, it looks like $250,400. But we will be receiving $187,800 from the townships. So our cost goes down, but I think we need to approve the whole purchase right now. The whole purchase is $572,853.69. That includes the standard bills and the whole portion of the fire truck tanker. And also a Grand River addition, $299.99.
So that's the total
Yeah.
for the month.
Yeah, the total bills would be $572,853.69. And we need to approve this to pay, but we know that we've got $187,800 coming back from the two townships. So our net amount will be $385,053.69. Clear as mud? Say clear as mud? The treasurer's not here, but we can try if they might have a question. Kathy?
I do, I'm just confused on page 6, where it says, the schedule was impacted by the MCC delivering schedule. In conjunction to the schedule, we recommend the village approve a change order to provide the canopy over the UV system and some FRP infill in existing buildings. The UV canopy was originally included in the bid, but removed to reduce costs. So the 1.8 million that was actually removed to bring it down to 18 million or something. So we're actually adding some of this back in, but only because we have that contingency money that we have to spend.
Well, we don't have to spend it, but if we don't spend it, we lose it, so, but yes.
It is considered an improvement too.
The reason it's contingency is because it was not a part of the original.
Well, it was originally,
Well,
but then,
yeah, well, yeah.
It's not necessary, but it's the new standard to include that in your wastewater facilities, so I would say we should do it.
yeah, well, I'm not saying that we shouldn't, I'm just curious as to, I
The
guess.
cost difference,
Well, I guess it's all in a matter of how you think about the total cost. It was originally in there, we took it off the cut cost, but now we got this contingency money to spend, but wouldn't other stuff have been cut? We knew we were having that money when this stuff got cut, right?
Mhm.
So wouldn't some of the other stuff be more feasible to cut and then add it back in on change orders? Then now we're actually adding additional back in to make it more of an 18,000 that it originally was, a million.
Well, I don't know the answer to that. I mean, there were a whole lot of things that were pulled
I know.
out of the original, as you well know. I don't know, but if we don't spend the contingency fund is a grant. So if we don't spend that, we lose whatever is not spent.
Well, I agree, we need to spend it, so I see no problem with spending it, because we have to, otherwise we just give it away.
That, grant money, it can be spent on anything to do with, treatment plant, correct? Like the construction. I mean, I guess my question is there anything that they cut that we should put back in now that we have?
That is part of what they're planning to put back in.
Okay.
So
Other than this?
yeah.
Okay, okay.
my question, have they given you an annual cost maintenance breakdown for the UV system, and has that been figured into any sort of budget for the wastewater?
It is, that's the part of the funding is, to maintain, to do maintenance and have replacement equipment on hand, so, yeah, it is. That was a requirement of the USDA loan, so.
I think that's for 10 years, is that for 10 years?
That's where I didn't know if you do change orders, if that's still factored in now. Because the UV system is a pricey annual thing.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure it will be relatively expensive to maintain, certainly that technology, is probably not above your head as much as it is above mine, but, yeah, that is all part of the loan, so.
So any change order is already, or how is that then reflected into what you're saying? Cause
Go ahead.
the cost breakdown's already been established for the grant, right, of the annual month, or, expenses?
Mhm.
So if you change something to it and now your expenses increase, where does does that make sense?
Well, I'm not quite sure how you mean.
Can you explain it better, Ken?
I don't know, I can try, but we have a certain dollar amount already set aside for maintenance.
Yes,
So adding this UV, whatever it is, that's gonna be extra maintenance. Is that included in the maintenance plan already that we have set?
I really couldn't answer that with any degree of certainty. Yeah, I mean, the explanation for the change order is in here as well, but whether or not, I don't think it's gonna replace anything that we have scheduled for, maintenance savings.
But will we have to add on to that maintenance savings to include this change?
Cause I think we will.
So, I'm a little confused too, let me see if I got this. we had to set aside $500,000, wasn't that the number we had to have?
That's probably in the ballpark, I
Right,
would say.
we had to have that much money set aside for maintenance.
Yes.
Right, now that we've added something that's gonna be expensive to maintain, do we have to add to that number to cover that, is what, I think what they're asking.
Yes.
Since that wasn't included before, this is gonna be expensive to maintain, so does that number have to go up to cover it, is the question.
I don't really have the answer to that question,
Okay.
I don't know. My gut reaction is probably not, but that's just a gut reaction.
Okay.
Can we ask, please?
Yeah, because he does that for a living, so he knows it's expensive to take care of.
And everything I read only talks about the initial cost, it has no reflection of yearly maintenance or anything to it.
That's part of the reason the rates are set where they are, is to help cover those costs as they arise, so.
Yeah, but that was before we added this, I think the question is, we set the rates to maintain an amount in an account to cover any maintenance. This is something that's gonna have to be maintained in addition to that.
Well, I don't know that. for
So
sure.
maybe we need to ask, do we need to increase that number somehow in case we have to maintain this, which sounds like it's gonna be expensive. I don't wanna, us with 2 years, 3 years down the road say we can't afford to take care of that because we didn't budget it, I guess that's the question.
And then you have $200,000 worth of canopy that doesn't work at all anymore.
Right. So maybe that's a question we should ask the engineers, see what they think.
Was the rate set at the beginning of the project?
Yes.
Like so would that have included this,
No,
if this was removed
that's what,
after?
yeah.
That's what,
I guess that would be the question, is when was the rate actually set?
it was set,
And I
with that
could,
cut, this
Okay,
cut out.
with that intent,
Yeah.
okay.
I could feasibly see, depending on the size, this costing us $10,000 to $20,000 a year to maintain.
To maintain it.
If you're gonna contract a company, if our maintenance crew is not able to do that,
Certainly I can contact them, but I won't have your answer tonight.
No, we'll just make it
Well,
a
why
nice
not?
meeting. Hey, you have to tell us by the end of the meeting. That's what you usually say to us. No, but it's a good question, because it is a new expense that we weren't necessarily prepared for.
It's gonna take care of purchasing the canopy or putting it up, but not maintaining it
Right.
going forward.
Okay, but you're assuming,
Oh, yeah,
and probably not incorrectly, you're assuming that it's gonna raise our maintenance.
I have no clue, so I'm not assuming, but if he knows and works with this, then,
I do, and
yeah, I would say he's
Do
probably
you think
correct.
this is something that whoever we get to run the plant, to run the whole facility, will be able to do that? Or is it someone that's gonna have to come in just to do that?
I mean, they don't give specifics, but if you're talking a canopy, if one person has to change 200 specialized bulbs that are mercury and all this that you can't touch, it's time consuming, and it would be probably unfeasible for, if you only have one operator.
You probably have to hire somebody to get rid of the bulbs when you change them and all that. We had to do that at the mill, we started using those
I know that last sentence there
bulbs.
in the letter, Mr. Benjamin said, we will follow up with the change order for approval at the next meeting. Let us know if you have any questions.
That's a good question.
Six. So that's gonna add maintenance costs later, operational costs.
And you're hoping that these bulbs make it a whole year, sometimes they only go 6 months. If they're not sealed right, and water gets into them, then you just fried the whole system, so,
You can't just throw those away.
no.
The mercury?
No, you gotta pay somebody to get rid of them for you. We had to do that at the mill.
They're high-intensity mercury bulbs that the EPA but they are in a new, all the new wastewater facilities I go to, it is a must-have. It for just cleanliness, UV kills all the bacteria around that sludge pool, basically. So anything that escapes your UV barrier is supposed to contain in there to help reduce all the spread.
Surprised that's one of the things they decided to take out in the first place then.
There's probably not a necessity.
It's not.
By next meeting, by the meeting next tonight. This email was from February 27th.
You got a phone number for him?
You got $143,000 to buy a whole bunch of extra bulbs.
Cell number at the bottom.
Yep, cell number right here.
I don't, he said it's for the plant.
Do those systems usually have like a warranty on them? Like
Uh,
from the manufacturer?
Probably 1 year.
1 year, 1 year and a day.
Yeah.
Rated for 1 year and 2 days.
Do
It
we
might
have
be
a,
better, but
do we have a time frame that we have to use that contingency money on?
Well, I think they were hoping for tonight.
No, that we have to spend the hundred, whatever we have left, we will.
The grant.
so 193, 835, 30 remaining in
We
the
have remaining
contingency.
hundred, do we have a time that we have to use that by?
I don't know. I assume so, and it's probably when the
Plant start.
Operation.
operation is online.
So we can save some of that and buy more bulbs next year.
I think what you're paying for is just the initial set of bulbs, the system, the
Right.
canopy, and the painting.
Right, but
Right.
if the bulbs are gonna be expensive every year, I thought maybe we could save some of that contingency money, but to
Oh.
spend it on bulbs for the coming years, but if we have to spend it by a certain time, or does it have to be part of the construction phase? And not after maintenance?
You would think if it applies to operation, you should be able to buy it. I mean, that's what we're spending it on, right? Change orders.
They don't go, the bulbs don't go bad, so you could buy,
Yeah, we could buy
Another set or two.
a couple more sets and have it on hand.
You just gotta have somewhere dry to store 'em. You got a closet around here? No, there's a room right there. Oh, that's your house. Just question, that's a good question. Let's find out.
I mean, I would say that, it's my opinion, this should be added if we're gonna take the time and build a new wastewater plant, let's not cut an expense like this if we don't have to, but I didn't wanna put the wastewater plant at a deficit budget to start out because they can't afford their maintenance.
So let's find that out, the question that we asked first about if it's in the maintenance.
But he got the email on the 27th and they were hoping for an answer tonight.
Well, I don't think there's a question that we wanna do it. It's just a
No.
matter of what we need to do to maintain it, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, so,
If the maintenance item is already scheduled in our maintenance program. And if we can buy bulbs ahead of time with the $193,000, I have no idea what they cost.
They're expensive.
I mean, you're talking tens of thousands, 50,000, or?
I would say an annual, if you're paying somebody to do it, 10,000 wouldn't be out of the question. They don't really give scopes or size of, you know, how many bulbs, there's not a whole lot in this to be able to go off of.
move that.
Yeah, you might as well. Do we need an answer tonight? It sounds like.
Hold on. We don't, but we just need to approve the purchase, correct? The change order?
Correct.
I think the question we want answered is, do we need to put more money in our budget to cover the maintenance? That's the question.
I'm sure that in the budget, the maintenance is covered.
Okay.
I'm positive about that, but whether or not it's gonna be enough,
Okay, it depends on, I know that, but it's just, 3 or 4 years down the road, we don't wanna say we need more money because this wasn't covered in our.
I don't disagree with you.
I'm guessing there's a slush factor in that maintenance.
Which is part of the reason that there's an increase in April,
Okay,
so.
But I would still like an answer. I mean, it doesn't have to be tonight. At the next meeting, I would like an answer. If it's this, UP is scheduled already in our maintenance budget. And if we can use some of this contingency money to buy more mercury bulbs, another set or two of them, for future use.
All right, I will ask him those questions. The
Change order is 50,000, there's currently 193. Maybe, is that after the 50,000?
Yes, so we have one.
No, it says what?
143.
We dropped to
143.
Oh, it's 143, okay, that's, I thought that,
Actually, we had moved.
so that's not the buy bulb.
She brought it.
Oh, yeah, plenty. It's-
So like,
That's what I'm curious as to what other change orders they have in mind if we have to use it.
And then she brought us back to.
If there are any that you
I
know
think the
of.
answer is none at this moment.
Okay.
They're not planning anymore. The way he spoke, this would probably be the last significant purchase from a change order.
but if there's something that we could spend this money on instead of lose it, that would make it better, we should look at that, correct?
Not actually.
You see what I'm saying?
specified in-
I understand, yeah.
We got $143,000 that we're gonna give away if we don't spend it. Is there anything else we can buy to improve it that we cut?
I don't think there's any chance that we're gonna turn that money back in, but I understand. I do understand your question.
That's
Some
what
of
they
the
were
changes
working
that
on.
they made, and see if there's any that we can put back in to get that money up.
Or have they given you a list of, hey, I would have 2 of this controller or program or whatever you might in 5 years is obsolete that you can't get?
Trust me, you are.
Yeah.
If it's all gonna be ran electronically, you want a lot of backup. Circuit boards go out very quickly. And you don't fix a circuit board anymore, you throw it away and get a new. I just don't want 5 years down the road for us to go, we need to do something else. That's the last thing we wanna do.
You got the notes there then, Mark? Okay. Back to the bills then. Yeah, I came up, normal bills, Comcast, INM, all those kind, was $14,870.44. We paid for the whole tanker truck, currently as it stands, or it's in our bills anyhow, $250,400. And then Grand Rivers is another $299, 9 1/4, and Fleece and Van Breaks another $7,654. Total bills that we would have to authorize tonight would be $572,853.69. Now of that, the 2 townships owe us back $187,800 collectively. So our bills are going to be $385,053.
There is another change request though on page 35, isn't there?
Change order in amount of 2314. Yeah, that's not part of the bill, I don't think, but it, yeah.
So, I wasn't sure if it was part of the bills because the first part, page 6, was about the wastewater plant, and then it goes 26 through 30 something is still about that. Then 35 is another change order with some of the most expensive anchors I've ever seen in my life.
It was $450,000 in tanker place.
I did not see where those were part of this bill. Did you see it, Kathy? Page 35?
Oh, I
This
did
one right here, that's what you're looking for.
I don't know why they're in here though. I don't see those pages.
So sorry if I'm
2,400
Is
bucks.
that the 24, so that's part of the 50,000?
That's what I'm asking, I don't know.
Cause that like 24-ish would be that going on
Yes,
that.
yes, so then there's a third one that has the final total amount on, what page is that? See, it's way out of order, and that's where I'm.
Yeah.
So on
Because that says
page
it's all
31,
other
Kathy,
stuff.
it has a combination of the two.
And then it lists each thing.
Making it 53,284.
Yes.
Okay, that makes it 53. So is our total still 143?
53,284. Yeah,
Well, it was 193 something.
so now it's gonna be 140 something.
Figure
141 something.
193, 835.30 minus 53,284.
$2,400 difference.
Say that again?
It's gonna
Okay,
be,
start with 193, 835.30
Okay.
minus 53,284.
gonna be like
140,551.3.
140,
Yep, 140,551.3.
so then that 143 was not including the 24,
$100.
24 something, yeah,
2314.
2314.
But did it include the credit that we got, the $5,500 credit?
Oh.
That would be part of the contingency fund, would it?
I don't know.
Would it go back to that? Cause we can't get a refund for it, right? So it would just go back to the
Is
project.
offering a credit,
It goes back to
5,500
the
to
project,
remove
but
it.
it wouldn't go out of the contingency, because the contingency fund is only for like
Additional.
additional. Yeah.
Well, and if we buy a box of 50 and only use 8 of them, do we keep the other? Or,
Good questions.
50 bulk.
no, in page 38 is the invoice from Hilti. You can only buy one box of 50, but we don't have like we installed this many.
One box of 50 each. And what, oh, acres.
It doesn't see how many they installed.
I'm assuming, I hope we get to keep them all.
Plus you have the credit on page 39 of 5,500, so my math was all messed up trying to figure this.
Yeah, but the credit should not go to the contingency, that should go back to the
That's-
cost of build.
Right. But where does it show that it coming back in, other than just a page saying?
I'm not saying 700.
This just says what this breaks down what 5,500 is for, where it says how it's built.
Where does it go?
Because they're not
That's
taking
what
the
I'm
time.
Yeah.
It's not in original
Yeah,
Hold it up.
for equipment and materials.
there's no
They're not
credit
gonna pay
anywhere
the
on
credit.
it.
Let's see.
So to me, from an accounting standpoint, that's just,
Because a lot of places want
Floating
to-
somewhere.
nice and yes.
Because it should be built in this annual. So it should be budgeting.
Where are we at?
I think Mark might be trying, are you talking with Lisa? Oh,
So I make a motion that we spend the the change order of $50,098.00 for the UV.
But it'd be the 53, cause they need the other stuff too, right?
I don't think it should work.
Oh, wait a minute, I think I answered our question. Page 29. UV canopy is 53,284. The
Oh, that's where they got the credit.
And then they give us a credit.
is a 2314, and then they gave us a credit for painting of 5,500. So the total is 50,098.
So the painting did come out of the contingency, why did it come out of
I don't
contingency?
know. I don't know why.
Cause it was a project they went back on, kinda like UV lighting.
No, they're adding the UV lighting,
Yes,
as it was cut originally.
But we had a lot of.
but then that went back into it.
Right.
But if they scrap it, then it goes back to the contingency.
$50,098 is what we need to approve. So we need a motion to approve change order for $50,098. Correct?
I'll make the motion.
I just did.
Alright, I'll second it.
Since it didn't come out of my account, let's go get it over.
Are we making that as part of the payment of the bills, the whole bills?
Yes.
Is that what you're?
Would be.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I
okay,
don't know if we have to do it
No,
separate.
this is
we don't
doing
have
that.
to do it separate.
Okay.
Alright. So I make a motion, we pay the bills, $572,853.69. Right?
Is there a second?
I'll second. Go ahead.
That's fine. Yeah,
I have you, so.
yeah. Motion is to pay $572,853.69.
Yeah, I went through this like 6 times.
And who was the motion and second?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess I didn't go back to 29 after 38.
It's a lot more than 50.
All right, any more questions or discussion on that one before we vote?
I do,
Okay,
sorry, but I.
No problem.
We're just looking over on page 30. The original contract on the top was $19,579,600. Decreased previous approved change orders is $1,081,751. Contract price prior to this change is $18,497. Increase is about $50,000. Now the contract price is
That's right, 50,000.
$18,547,947.
Yeah.
So
Leave the 18 right now, it's 497 plus, that equals 547.
That's what led me to the question of what else did they cut out? Because that's a big amount of money. If there's something else we should have
they
had.
cut out more than that, but I don't know, I don't even know if I remember what it.
yeah, I remember the second item down, what we cut out, decrease from previously
Yeah,
Yeah.
$2 million.
And you got the one
And
that.
that was more than just the UV system.
Oh, yeah,
It was
yeah.
ours.
Yeah, a lot of stuff.
Yeah, so we need to figure out what they cut out and see what we can add in for $140,000,
Yes. I would
Or-
agree.
except for
it's,
label.
it's something that we need.
Yeah,
Cause I agree, if we could buy extra stuff to, backup stuff, that's the way to go with these kind of systems. Cause he's right, 3 years they'll be obsolete, they'll have some new thing out.
Can't buy new if you can replace all the time.
What I think should happen is when all is said and done, that in the end, they'll say, okay, we've got whatever it is, $100,000 left in the contingency fund. Let's figure out where to spend that so that we don't give it back.
Yeah, that's what we're saying,
It's in their interest.
that's what we're,
And that's where I think it's important where Don says that we need to get that guy hired so he can be there for startup and look at all the equipment and know what he's gonna potentially have to replace and what's important to replace and. But
got a meeting scheduled to have that conversation, so. I'm going to assume that they will distribute calls for application. Obviously, that's the only way to go about that, because hopefully we can interview 20 people for the job or whatever the case, and choose whom you think is the best candidate.
I
I
doubt
don't think
it.
you're gonna have that many candidates.
I doubt-
I'm being facetious. I
Never
can't
assume.
get.
I
20
doubt that any of the
applications for
engineers-
Village bookkeeper, so.
Yeah.
That job pays a little better than the bookkeeper job.
Oh, no, it ain't. No, it's not.
The construction guys and the engineers can't start that system. They gotta have somebody who knows what they're doing to start it. So we gotta have somebody in place before they,
Well, the manufacturers will start it up for you.
but somebody else needs to be with them to do that. Yeah, I agree. Or we're gonna pay later
Yeah.
down the road if we're not. Cause there's multiple systems out there for this stuff.
Okay, right now we have a motion on the floor by King, supported by Steers, to pay bills in the amount of $572,853.69. $572,853.69. Any more questions or comments? Okay, call roll please.
King,
Yes.
Steers,
Yes.
Denman,
Yes.
Lawrence, G. Mathers,
Yes.
Piper,
Yes.
and Mathers. Yes.
Motion carries. All right, we made it to public comment. This is a place where we ask anybody in the audience that would like to address council or ask questions. Now would be the time. Podium's kind of spun the wrong way, so you can stand at your chair if you want to address council.
Now you gotta face the wall.
Good evening.
And we will keep it to 3 minutes each. as always.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'll try to be quick. I'm Louis Rosato, your county commissioner. And I'm gonna read some of this that I have prepared because I'm gonna share it with others. I guess I'm here today to check the temperature to see if the council and the village would be interested in something that I might propose. I'm considering, as you all know, the county received $1.1 million worth of marijuana money. And I anticipate that the next executive meeting, it's gonna come up as to what we're gonna do with this money. So I, as your commissioner, I would like to propose, one of the things I would like to propose is, let me skip a little further here because I don't need the intro part. At the upcoming executive commission meeting, I would like to maybe make a presentation or proposal to use that $1.1 million in marijuana revenue for the replacement of lead pipes throughout the county. The first step in this process will involve each city and village, or in our community, reporting the number of lead pipes that they need replaced. The total number of replacing these pipes will be then calculated, and the $1.1 million will be divided among the municipalities based on the number of pipes. And like I said, this is just something I'm thinking of proposing next Tuesday at the executive meeting. However, participation in the program will require that each local government use 100% of their allocated marijuana revenue for lead pipe replacement. If a city or village chooses not to participate, their portion of the funding will be redistributed to those municipalities that are actively working to address the issue. If the total cost of replacing lead pipes is less than the available funds, the local municipalities will be required to use their full share of the marijuana revenue. In the event that there are remaining funds, the county will then cover the balance to ensure all necessary replacements are completed. As local governments, we have a duty to provide essential services, and safe drinking water should always be a top priority. It's time that we take some action to address this critical issue and ensure that every resident in the county has access to safe, clean drinking water. If you support this plan, then I encourage you to contact your local commissioner and express your backing for a solution that will protect the health and safety of our community for years to come. And I bring this up to you because this is what I intend to release on Tuesday, and so I guess I wanna know, as, like I said at the beginning, I wanna take the temperature of the village council, and anybody else in the room who might be interested in, are you interested in me doing this? Is this something you'd be willing to consider, and be part of? I know that it indicated, in my statement, I indicated that it would require you to use your marijuana money as well. Cause this is not unlike the ARPA money where we would just give you ARPA money. So what is the pleasure?
May I
Yes,
clarify? In order to get a piece of that pie, we have to spend our own marijuana money, I don't like it.
as well. Okay,
That's hamstringing, because that money is earmarked already for general fund and other things, so I really can't afford to spend. I should ask you, are you talking about the amount we get from the state, or the amount that we get from the businesses? Because in either way, either case, it would.
I'm
Really
guessing
hurt us.
it'd be part of your 230-some thousand that you recently got.
Okay.
I would think that that would be part of the money you would use, but the idea being, when I ran this by a couple of other people, is that the local municipalities would have to have some buy-in, instead of just the county giving out this money. We would probably be willing to do matching grant type stuff, but you'd have to use that money. as
We
well.
can't afford it.
Yeah.
We just can't afford it.
Okay.
Um,
Another option that I have is, I was gonna also, I'm probably gonna get kicked out of the meeting, because not only was I gonna suggest this, I was gonna suggest that also, that maybe we take this money and help the municipalities with their costs for ambulance coverage.
Take the money and
And, in other words, take some of this $1.1 million and go to the villages and townships and whoever is, to help them pay for their contracted services for ambulance. Because you see, I've been asked also to try to bring up the idea of the county ambulance-wide ambulance service, but we're not in the business of running an ambulance business. But we might, with this money, I might suggest that we take this money and say, for example, hypothetically, Constantine Village, your contract for ambulance is how much?
42.
Okay, and.
We're actually the second highest in the county.
Yeah, and so maybe we could take part of this $1.1 million and maybe meet halfway and say, here's X money earmarked strictly to help you with your ambulance contract.
But, so back to the original question, what is the estimated cost to replace all how many lead pipes did they find in our village? Do we
they haven't
remember?
actually found any lead pipes, they found lead goosenecks. But there's more follow-up that needs to be done to identify and locate lead pipes. They're not finished with that project yet, so
So we have no idea what it could cost.
I wouldn't even wanna try to ballpark it.
That's what I mean.
Once you start having to excavate and remove the lead pipes, that's when as you know, that's when it gets really salty, so I don't think I'd wanna ballpark it. I don't think that there are going to be a lot of lead pipes. Relatively speaking, I would gather if it's more than 5 or 10%,
So,
that would be astonishing.
so we're gonna have to pay to fix those, replace those. The village is gonna have to take care of that though, right?
Right.
So his idea of 50-50 is not a bad idea, is it?
But it would have to come from the marijuana money.
Yeah, you have to understand, and the marijuana revenue is critical to the budget.
Okay,
So,
but-
over and above the
I guess my question is, where is the money gonna, let's say we are gonna have to spend $30,000 to, just a ballpark number, to fix what you're saying needs fixed. Where would that money come from?
out of the water fund.
And you can't, do what every other company does and kind of move money around and make it look like it's like the marijuana fund?
Well, the water fund is strictly for water and water pipes, so,
Okay.
and 30,000 is just plucking it out of the air. I can't.
I'm just thinking
Are
of
you
different ways to answer
talking-
this question.
can't.
That's all.
Money on top of our marijuana money, if we,
No, no,
so the money you've already or we already have, you wanna now stipulate,
We have to spend that first.
What we spend it.
well, not necessarily first, but you have to use it. Your
if we
marijuana.
don't use it for that, you take all of it, right?
That, no,
I thought that's what you said,
that we would take all of it?
that we wouldn't get any of it.
Correct, correct. If you don't use it, that would be the stipulation. You have to use your own marijuana money. We'll match it with that. So, for example, if you, hypothetically, if you took 30,000 out of marijuana money to pay for some lead pipes, we would give you 30,000 from our marijuana. But see, the same situation that you're asking here is also what I'm gonna probably face on Tuesday. They're probably gonna say, well, wait a minute, we can't do that, we wanna use this 101,000 for something else. But I just think it's important that, you know, we do what we can with what I call, I wouldn't call it discretionary, but I would call it money that we weren't banking on, because we really didn't know how much we were gonna get, nobody knew. And so, you know, my argument's gonna be to the county, my argument's gonna be, we budgeted 100,000, or 1 million. We got 1.1 million. Other people probably budgeted less, and they got way more than they thought they were gonna get. And so, not all that money is earmarked for anything specific.
But it's near to impossible for me to make a decision until you know what the number is
Yeah,
for the repairs.
right, and that's why I said at the beginning, I'm just taking a temperature to see if you guys think this is something you would entertain, or am I wasting my time in suggesting this?
Can I ask a quick question, Jim?
Yes, I'm answering two for $1.
What do you do with somebody like Centerville Amendment that doesn't have marijuana?
They don't get the money.
I say White Pigeon doesn't have any either.
Yeah.
I think
Until
it's-
April.
Yeah.
They're taking applications in April.
I think it's impossible for me to make a decision without knowing the cost of what we're talking about first. I mean, I don't know that much about, I mean, it can't cost that much to dig up something and change it, you know, I know it's expensive, but we're not talking $100,000 or $200,000 for just the elbows. Now, if you had to replace 100 water lines, you might be up there, you know? It costs what, $38,000 for them to just blast it and tell us
Yeah,
which ones were lead?
what did we pay for that money for?
That's what I was.
We're much higher than that,
It was 46.
much higher than that.
Okay, well, that was for them just to tell us which ones we had to change. That was basically for them to test them all and say, this one needs change, this one needs change, this one
So,
needs
are you saying part of that project's just not done yet?
You are correct, yeah,
Yeah.
they've only just done preliminary.
So we don't know what the cost is gonna be. Now,
So maybe this is premature. And
what I
it's
would
just-
say to you is that if we knew the cost and it was gonna be a 50-50 thing or something like that, that should also include the cost of us find out, the money we've already spent to find out which pipes need replaced. As part of it, make it a whole project. You see what I'm saying? We spent over 40 grand just to find out which one we gotta change.
Right.
So if you're gonna
So you're
propose
saying we would give you reimbursement for something you've already spent?
right, the whole project.
You know, I've always been told you can always ask.
You know, I'm just, without the cost though, I don't know that we could say it's a
Yeah,
good
'cause
idea or a bad idea.
You could burn up that whole fund and if
We'd be
we're
screwed.
higher
Them
than,
all.
yeah.
We've been screwed.
Okay, I appreciate it. I think I've got what
I got, about the ambulance thing, Mike, what do you think about that? You know all about the ambulance stuff.
About
What are
helping
you
us pay
saying
for
about?
the, I think it would be good, where you're gonna probably run into some heartburn is when, cause you have 3 ambulance services.
I.
So the 2 cities are gonna have to be involved in that, and then the townships with their subsidy and stuff.
Trust me, originally, when I bounced it off some people, I said the 2 cities are out. They can fend for themselves, but they're not doing much to help everybody else. But I was told if you do it for one, you can't extend it to 2, so.
I mean, myself personally, I'd rather see it go to the ambulance, cause we know that cost.
Yes.
That's just me. We don't even know the cost of the pipe replacement yet. And since you have to do it tomorrow night.
Yeah. Okay, I appreciate it. Thank you for your
That's just
time.
me, so anybody else can see what they wanna do.
there are some other ideas out there, but, like I said, I may be faced with, sorry, we have, I'm only one of 7, and technically I'm one of 4, because it only takes 4 to veto me, but, they may have other plans. They may wanna put it towards the courthouse, all of it. They may wanna, I don't know what else.
Sounds like they need to spread it equal.
That's
Give
what
you
I
a
wanna,
little,
that's
give
what
them
I
a
wanna
little.
do. I think it needs to go equal, cause, that money comes from all over the county, it doesn't just come from one entity.
Well, isn't that how it's divided?
Pardon me?
Isn't it divided by the number of sales in a community? Like Constantine has so much, Three Rivers has so much, and isn't that how it's determined?
No, that's how that pot is divided. Every municipality who has them, they get their own set of money, like you guys got 232,000, I think. I may be off. But if you guys got that much money, that's all you're gonna get. We got our money because I think it's collectively of everything.
You're talking we as in county.
Is in the county, yeah. But, so anyway, I'll just put that on hold. And then if I could ask one other question, I know I'm passing my 3 minutes. Did you guys get a letter asking or informing you how much it would cost to use the new aerial photo thing? Does that ring a bell?
No.
Okay.
Eagle View.
Eagle View? No?
I'm sorry,
It's called Eagle View?
I haven't seen such.
You guys haven't seen such a letter? Okay. Then I won't bother asking about that either, so. Okay, thank you for your time. If you need anything, as always, I'm available.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, we're still in public comment. Anyone else like to address council? Ask a question? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on. Visitor presentations, there are none. Item 7, unfinished business. Michigan Neighborhood Grant Program on page 42.
So the change orders were supposed to.
And also there's an addendum of that. I should say not an addendum, but a memo prepared by a new administrative assistant that I think is very, very well written.
The printer's not very
And
good.
I think I passed it out to everybody, but you have a memo from Cassandra? Get out there.
We can look like, let me see one.
Yes, it was right on the desk when it came in. I don't know.
Page 42.
It's the one that's not copied very well.
Like the others.
A bunch of
That's
pages.
only 42 items.
It wasn't in our packet, it was on our desk. when we
Right,
got it.
correct.
I had one in my packet.
Yeah, but this was on our
That's
desk.
one from
This is
me.
a new one.
Cassandra.
I've got 2, yeah.
We got a
That's the one
bunch of
look like
pages,
that we're looking for here.
Just like that.
Yeah.
Ah,
I had this one from Cassandra in the packet.
Yeah.
okay.
One page.
So do you have an update on it then?
I don't,
She's.
she's, what they put together so far is, oh, geez. This is a boilerplate application for the grant. But she says it's expected that the Village of Constantine may be able to complete the CDBG grant application process quickly, that is within the month, in order to begin working with residents quickly as well. There are restrictions as to who can apply for the grant, and basically it's low to moderate residents, low to moderate homeowners, and the restrictions are, it appears that they're going to be strictly for new roof, not roof repair, but a new roof, window replacement, and furnace replacement. So it's, I think we all know of at least a few houses in town that could use some work, and the
part that I didn't understand, which he didn't explain it this way, and maybe I just misunderstand it, on the second page, component A, it says new housing unit production. I thought this was just to repair existing ones. The second page after this,
That's my neighborhood application information.
yep, if you go down to activity component requested, component A says new housing unit production.
And unoccupied rehabilitation. So if there's a house that got bought by the back, sold for back taxes, and we bought it, we could use this money to
Is that what that
fix the
means?
house. That's what it says, unoccupied rehabilitation. Right?
I don't think so. I think that this is strictly for, not for a property that you purchase on a tax sale or whatever the case.
No, I'm talking about the village. It says
I don't think the village could use this.
unoccupied rehabilitation.
It's just individual.
That's what I thought too.
Is it just giving all the options on this paperwork?
That's what I wasn't sure, that's kind of what I was asking, because, yeah, she just brought up, down a little bit lower, it says multi-entity.
I think the proposal budget on the end, which I can't read very well, but, I think that would be
Where
all the
it would break
options
down?
selected,
Okay.
all the options chosen. So,
The part we need to see.
but even then, it's still, it almost looks like zeros across the board.
Well, it says, here it says, anticipated targeted income level goals, low equal less than 6% of annual median home, moderate less than, can't read it.
Yeah.
I think that's the call, targeted income level goal comprehensive. That's what you have to be on, you have to get the money, I think.
How the state defines it.
Yeah. You can't read it. No, we already did it.
Yeah, I'd like to be able to read the
Isn't
last
this an
pages.
Mark, isn't this just an update of what we're doing? We don't have to
Yeah.
vote on it.
Yeah.
We already voted to try to.
Right.
Yeah, because a lot of people can't read.
Is there any way we could get some new pages?
Yeah, I know that some of it doesn't print well, but,
It's a 2025 application.
understand too that this is a boilerplate, it's not an
Okay.
actual application, so.
I just wanted to clarify, there was no loopholes where it's, I mean, I thought we were intended for,
People that needed it.
yeah.
Sounds good.
That's exactly how it's intended, people who need it and the houses that are in
Again,
substandard shape.
Yeah.
we should,
There's plenty of people in town that could do some improvement.
Oh, sure. Certainly there are.
Well, a lot of senior citizens.
And we expect that it'll trickle in to start with, and then as people take advantage of it, others will probably apply as well.
Well, he said that if we get the money, we can reapply in October
yeah,
again anyway.
Yes.
So we want to try to get as quick as we can.
That's where I read some of that, and I'm like, this doesn't seem like what we were told.
I missed that meeting, I was sick that night. so
Yeah.
I wasn't in attendance there, but
The way he told us, it was just for family homes in town that needed assistance to rehab large item things. And
He didn't,
I
he
think,
didn't say.
I think that's the grant we're applying for, but it's, the state leaves it open for other like municipalities.
He didn't limit it to a roof or windows.
No,
He said improvements.
Yes.
Siding, anything like that.
and I think since then it's been streamlined.
Okay. Whatever we can get, I'm all for it.
That would be nice, I can think of probably at least half a dozen houses that are not owned by wealthy people that we're in duty. There was a house on West Best Street, that was roughly like
I don't know.
waffle.
I don't think this has anything to do with this. Do we need any, a grant writer of any kind to help with this, or is this Mr.?
Well, actually, there are two components here. Mr. themselves will, do a lot of the work free of charge. And Mr. Lysinski does some of the paperwork, helps with some of the paperwork, and neither of them cost us any money. That all comes out of the federal grant, and it doesn't affect our $200,000. We are still eligible to apply for up to $200,000 worth, and it will roll out again, they expect in October, so there will be 2 rounds.
I do have a contact name of someone that would be interested in helping us with grants when needed.
Okay.
I did tell her any detail, because I didn't know any detail, but I just reached out and said, hey, and she used to do it out of Mendon, and I don't remember her name right off the top of my head, but she said definitely she would be interested in helping with grants if we needed it, so.
And right now, I could probably use that sort of person because Cassandra's just learning. She hasn't ever applied for grants before. This one looks like it's a laydown because it'll be handled primarily by Mr. We won't need any grant writers per se, but
I could send you the information and you could contact her if you'd like.
yeah, please do.
Okay.
Are we still in public comment?
Or like, we can get stuff like this earlier before the meeting, so we have a chance to look at it more.
You got it when I got it.
I know, or hold it until the next one. Okay.
Oh, huh. The next one is the change order.
That's what I seen that, but
Sure, was out of order. We've already done that.
Okay, next, page 43. Wastewater treatment plant update.
We already did it.
You've already looked at that one.
About the contract.
Police contract.
There we go. How are you doing?
Darn, please.
What do you want?
I wish I had their representative when I was. I like it.
Whoever represents the police did a damn good job
Yeah.
on this contract. I'll tell you that. That's the best contract I've ever looked at. I read the whole thing.
Okay, are there comments about any particular item, or?
I think she has comment maybe.
Who? Becky? Becky did?
They want me?
I don't, did you have a comment about the? Okay.
Comments over.
The FOP contract, page 44 to 71.
I'll make a motion, we accept the contract as presented.
There is one thing I
There is
question.
a few spelling things and some wording that's not correct. Stop it.
Get out of here.
Yeah. A little red.
What, anybody can honestly say they understood it? And
No, this,
No, I know.
I understand how this works.
I had a question on page 67 or 23 of the agreement. Page 67 of the packet.
Wages,
Yeah. Down near the bottom, 19.2. We're talking about the shift premium, and I got confused there that if a guy works from, when they get the extra 3%, if they work and leave at 12, but because they work till 12, they get a 3%? And maybe the chief can answer that, or, you know, when does that kick in exactly?
I think night and midnight shift are the same thing, right?
Yeah.
Well, if you're asking me, when I read this and understand, like I told you last time, I had nothing to do with the negotiations. But the way I read it, if I were to schedule somebody 10A to 10P, that's night shift premium because 4 hours of it happens after 6 PM.
so they get 4
That's
hours
the way I'm
of
reading it.
night shift.
10 AM would start the night shift premium,
10 PM.
AM.
So the whole 12 hours would be PM?
That's the way I'm reading it.
Wow.
I'm a little confused about it myself, so.
In which at least 4 hours of the shift falls between 6 PM and 6 AM. Shall be
They would
eligible
get-
for the differential of the 3%.
If you had 6 PM to 10
10
PM,
PM is when they would get. the
out of a
4%.
10A to 10P shift, the way I'm reading it is that all is shift differential for night premium.
Even though only 4 hours worked, there's that,
That's the way I'm reading it.
yeah.
Why isn't it just defined as 8 to 4, you don't get it, from 4 to midnight, you get 2%, and from 12 to 8, you get 3% or something?
Well, I don't, my issue with that is, I only want one person to collect that shift premium. One person, one shift. There's, the reason that I wanted this overnight is because your most senior person is less likely to work midnights unless there's an incentive. And the most senior person gets to choose his shift. I want the most senior and experienced person working midnights because it'll, A, hopefully there will be fewer mistakes. B, hopefully the chief will be called less often in the middle of the night because you have a person out there with experience. Don't misunderstand, we've all been rookies, and so you can expect rookie mistakes, but,
I think the question is how it's paid. In
well,
other words, explain to us, like, if you have, so give us a scenario, 10, if a guy goes on at, what time did you say?
Well, again, the way I'm reading this, if 4 hours of the shift is between 6 PM and 6 AM, if I were to schedule somebody 10 AM to 10 PM, 4 hours being in that night shift,
He'd get the whole thing.
an employee is working any scheduled shift, right, in which 4 hours happen between 6 P and 10 P.
The wording is PM to AM though, so it would have to be,
Is this new, Mark? Is this
Yeah.
new?
yes, yeah.
Okay, so it has to be, the way contract works is if you have new language, it's how you've used it the first time that sets the precedent.
yeah, I know.
So however it's done from the beginning is how it's gonna be. So explain answer his question, I guess. So you're saying, give us that scenario again?
If I schedule somebody 10 AM to 10 PM, the way I read it, they get the 3% for night shift premium.
Is that true, Mark?
Yes, well, yeah, that's not how it was designed, but that's how it was written up, and part of the problem, probably me, I didn't read it carefully enough, but I argued with the
So you're gonna pay both shifts.
representative from, pardon me?
You pay both shifts every day.
Absolutely, you absolutely could, depending on how the shifts were scheduled, and I want the chief to have more latitude in how he schedules his manpower. If his hands are tied, if he has somebody working from 10 AM to 10 PM, that person is gonna receive shift premium. And we really want people working overnight, so if the person works from 2 to 6 AM, they're gonna get shift premium. It wasn't intended to be that way, but.
There's a simpler way to do it.
Yeah.
There's a much simpler way to do that and get the same result.
The,
You set times. If you work between this time and this time, you get this %.
if,
Plain and simple. It
if
doesn't-
that's your regularly scheduled regularly
There
scheduled.
is no regular scheduled shift if he can change them on a weekly basis. You can change the schedule, you can basically schedule however you want, there's no limitations, there's no set hours.
Well, there are some limitations there too, because he has to put out shift bids every 4 months, so 3 times a year they can bid the shift they wanna work.
I'm not talking about who works what shift, Mark, I'm talking about the shifts themselves.
I understand that, but in the shift, they're going to bid for 4 months on a shift. And it's not, well, you can't just change it willy-nilly.
So, let's say you put a schedule out for 2 weeks, and then a guy gets hurt, and you have to make up that gap. Can you change that schedule to cover that gap after that 2 weeks, or do you have to wait that 4-month window?
there is some wiggle room, right?
That's what I'm saying, it would be simpler just to define, if you're at work, if you're on shift from midnight to 8 AM, you get 3%. The other ones you don't. Most places give you a
That's what
second
I'll-
shift differential and a third shift
Yeah,
differential.
and that's what we're working for, is just a third shift differential. I'm not interested in second shift, because you're gonna be paying two people that
Right.
premium every day.
I
don't
know,
wanna do
but
that.
you so what you should do, the language should say, if you work from midnight, any part of midnight to 8, those hours worked would be, you would get 3% shift differential.
Well, that's kinda what it says, except
It's
it's
kinda what it
6 P to
says,
6
but-
AM.
Because they're 12-hour shifts, yeah.
But like you said, the way you read it, it's different. That's what, contracts are interpreted based on how a person reads them. And me and you can read the same thing and get a different
Right.
interpretation. That's
To me, it's the
I'm not
4-hour
agreeing.
part that makes it,
complicated.
yes, it's not just the time period, and it doesn't really even say he's paid his whole shift. Then it just says he's eligible.
What's the trigger that makes him eligible?
The 4 hours after 6 PM. It says any scheduled shift in which 4 hours are after 6 PM.
I think you should seriously look at that, about how to.
I'm not part of the negotiation.
I'm not talking to
just
you.
Answering the questions.
That's what I'm working for. Now, the union has already ratified this. You haven't.
But we need to, they need to I understand what you're saying, but we're asking them to clarify, like, so, I'm sorry I'm talking too much, but if there's a disagreement between us and the union, it's gonna end up at an arbitration. Well, if you ever,
No, not necessarily.
okay, if we don't agree, when you bring it to the fourth step in here, and we can't agree, it can go to an arbitrator. What the arbitrator is gonna do, he's gonna read this and go, tell me how you negotiated it. It's new language, how is it negotiated? And then both sides are gonna give their opinion of how it's negotiated, and that's what he's gonna base his decision on.
Well, this wouldn't go to an arbitrator yet. This, if you decide to reject this contract, we go back to the table. To try to correct that language to something we can all agree on.
I think that,
So who votes first? We vote first, or the police union votes
they've already
first?
ratified it, now it's up to us.
He's shaking his head no that they haven't.
Well,
You just
yeah,
said they had.
it depends on how you define ratify. They think, well, we a vote of the union, the members present, and they voted in favor of this. Now, I don't want to get into a technical argument with the NLRB about what is ratification. All I'm saying is, if you vote to approve this contract, then it's there. If you vote not to approve the contract, we would go back to the table and negotiate again to pick up the parts that aren't.
But the way it's supposed to work is, the company, which is us, gives it to the union, and they give it to their members, and then they decide whether they like it or not. They vote to ratify,
They haven't.
but they haven't done that yet. So, if they haven't done that yet, then we can still sit down with them and say, we need to clear this up before we let you ratify it.
Yeah. That's,
I'm not in the union, but the union officers have not voted on this contract. The sergeant and the union rep for FOP are the ones that agreed to it.
But they can't agree to it until the members ratify it. They can't do that on their own.
okay, I think you're missing my point.
Okay, I make a motion that we don't accept this, and we want you to go back and clarify that. Is that what you're looking for?
In so many words.
Okay, because yeah, it would be simple, and I'm not telling you how to do your job, please don't take it that way, but it would be simple to say, if you're on shift from midnight to 8, the hours you're on shift, you will receive 3%. Anything else is your normal rate.
That's what we're ultimately after.
Yeah.
But not necessarily those hours, but that's what we're ultimately after.
Yeah, that's how you fix, you get rid of that whole paragraph. So that's how you do it.
4 hours out, yeah.
There's a motion on the table, is that what I heard you say?
I make a motion that we don't accept the contract as written. We need to go back and fix that. That's a big deal, that's.
What
a lot.
spelling typos did you find? We might as well fix
Oh,
that too.
just a few, on page 4.
Typos don't mean it, as long as a misspelled word doesn't change the meaning.
Be nice to clean them up though.
Yeah, it'd be nice to clean them up.
I made a motion, you gotta second it, you gotta vote on it, and then we discuss something else.
Who was the
I'll
second?
just withdraw my motion.
That's, I thought he,
Withdraw what motion?
I made a motion that we accept the contract. I withdraw that motion.
Did anybody second it?
Nope.
Then we don't have to act on it, correct? So I make a motion that we don't accept it, until we clarify that paragraph.
Technically, one of two things has to happen. Either
Okay.
he withdraws his motion, or you vote on it.
You would.
He withdrew it,
Okay.
alright. So now we can make a motion not to accept it until we clarify.
If there's a second, is there a second?
I would second that.
Okay. Don King, motion, and Kathy Piper, second. Motion to not accept the FOP contract as written. Okay, any more discussion?
Just some typos and
Yeah.
found a couple language things. On page 48 or 4, I guess it depends on which one you want. The first paragraph where it says grievances and matters, there's only one T, there should be 2 T's in matters. And
I know it's page 4, but
top paragraph, first paragraph, the bottom, last sentence.
what section number?
4.3.
What word is spelled wrong?
Matters,
Oh, matters,
should be
okay.
2 T's.
I got 2 T's.
I've got 2 T's.
You're looking at the old one.
Yeah, right there,
Matters.
down.
The second matters, okay, yeah, the
Second
second.
matters.
In the last line,
Yeah.
such resolved grievances and matters, lots of tomatoes.
Matters.
Yeah. Well, don't you proofread it and everything before you print it into a book anyway? Don't you print it into a book, give it up?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, all
This
that.
is,
Typos
there were
don't
a whole
change.
lot more mistakes than this.
Yeah, typos don't change anything.
And I do have another question. Believe it or not, I'm completely ignorant on all this grievance stuff. I mean, there's like 4 steps, 5 steps to go through for a grievance thing. But on step 4,
That's what comes to us.
the second paragraph where it comes to the council,
What page is that?
8 or 52, I don't know if I got
Yeah,
the wrong copy here.
that's good. Yeah, step 4,
Step 4.
reviews is not satisfactory, so step 3, reviews may be submitted to the village council to the village council, writing 5 days.
And, okay, the last part where it renders its decision in writing, the council has to render its decision in writing. So what format would that
The
be?
minutes.
Would be
Minutes.
just minutes?
The minutes are the result of the meeting, so it should be in the minutes, our decision.
So we don't have to make a motion or anything, it says
Well, yeah, we would decide how we wanna handle it.
its decision in writing, so it's just the minute notes?
They always reduce it to writing, everything's reduced in writing in
I don't
the
know
contracts.
which step are you in?
Where it
Above
is
step
step
5.
4,
Right above step 5.
in the next paragraph, where it says village council in capital letters.
Okay.
I'm just curious in what form it has to, where it says
Oh,
render its decision in writing.
It doesn't define a form, I don't think, you could just say, heck no, but, or we are not going to decide this matter, it's gonna have to go beyond here.
Right, but you'd have to basically give a letter to the union saying that it's going to the next step, that's why it says reduce to writing. You just have to give them notification, so they can't deny that they got it.
It's just a formatted letter of some kind.
No, there really isn't, it could be.
No, yeah, it's just anything. Well, the other thing is in here, I mean, I don't know how anybody else feels about it, but when you go to arbitration, the loser should pay,
That's, I had that
not
question.
share.
Yeah, I had
The
that,
loser should pay.
I had that question also. But,
Most all union contracts, when you go to an arbitration, the loser pays, because arbitrations are expensive. And that also deters people to go on dumb stuff, because if they lose, they're gonna spend $7,000 to $10,000 for an arbitration.
so on
But, I mean,
step,
that's negotiable too.
yeah, on step 4, the paragraph right above that I was asking about, the second sentence says, such submission shall be writing, it should be, shall be in writing, so we're missing a in IN there.
These are matters to be discussed at a later time.
Oh, okay.
You guys need to vote, be done with it.
See what?
All this will be proofed again.
Yeah, is it a warrant, give yours, rather than take up the time to give.
Well, fine, see if I read it again.
Yeah, I would,
I had another one, but I'm not even gonna go into
I
it.
know. There's always typos in contracts, so it's pretty hard.
Okay, we do have a motion now, that, I believe King made a motion, seconded by Piper to not accept the FOP contract as written. Is that correct?
So I have
Okay.
one more thing I wanted to ask about, what Don just said about section 10.5 on page 10 or 54, about shared equally by the parties. I'm assuming you mean what parties stuff?
If you go to arbitration, the village, the arbitrator rules, and the arbitrators charge you $10,000, they can charge kind of whatever they want, it's a lawyer. And each side pays half of the cost.
Yeah,
It should be loser pays.
I agree with that one. I don't agree with
I can
both
tell you
parties.
that my last place, it was written very similarly, where they split the cost, but.
Well, I've seen it that way, but the deterrent with loser pays is, you don't go to arbitration over anything stupid, because you might lose. That's just my opinion.
Conversely, if you aren't real confident about how it's gonna go, then you're not gonna fight the grievance, and you're just gonna let it.
Yeah, but there are issues where you're willing to spend $3,500 and take a chance versus $7,000 or $8,000. Trust me, I've been there. We took arbitrations that most people thought we would lose and we won, so.
So we're gonna leave that part in there without any discussion.
They're gonna vote. I'm not accepting a contract right now.
What will that part be discussed?
Sounds like all that's not up to us, we're just what's supposed to vote, whether we approve or disapprove.
Any more questions? All right, motion is to not accept the FOP contract as written. So if you have a yes vote, I guess you're voting not to accept it. Call roll, please.
King,
Yes.
Lawrence,
Yes.
G. Mathers,
Yes.
M. Mathers,
Yes.
Steers,
Yes.
Denman,
Yes.
Piper.
Motion is unanimous. Okay, now we go to, what was that here, letter E under unfinished business, fire station update, Mr. Steers.
I just-
Did you read that?
He
I
asked
just
for
did
it.
ask for the
He asked
update.
for the update.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you said it.
I don't have all that information, that's why.
Oh.
He said something about you were gonna build it.
Yeah.
Pay for it.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
No.
Yeah, you playing here.
Steers has got one.
No, I don't.
Got Steers.
See one of those?
Yeah, he's one of them rich people.
No.
Can you anyone provide a fire station update?
Sure. Yeah. Right now it's languishing primarily because I lost my administrative assistant. It's going back to the new administrative assistant, but we had, a couple of tasks we had to get done. One is a budget for the new fire station, and that's the primary thing. So as soon as that's accomplished, we'll get the letter to, rural development, and, they'll process it from there. But essentially, out of time and out of personnel, but that's being picked up again.
So, do you know if we're still getting our grant?
I know for sure.
That we're still getting our grant?
That congressional grant, I don't know that for sure. I called and spoke to my contact in the congressman's office. And he said, we don't have any reason to think right now that we won't get it, but I don't have that officially yet.
If we don't get that grant, can we afford to build it still?
Well, we could, it'd be $3 million bucks, obviously, more than that by now, because it's been a couple of years since that design was created. We could, and we've got the special assessment district for the fire, which is how I was planning on paying our portion of the loan. It wouldn't be cheap if we use up that SAD money every year, and I haven't figured out what the payments would be on a $3 million loan, but it's what was the percentage, Mike, do you remember? Was it 4%?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, so, anybody want to do any quick calculations, what 4% would be on a $3 million loan, but we could do it, I think, it would just be pretty tight. I mean, that would use up the SAD money for the fire district, so. Well, that's a long-winded way of saying, yeah, I think it could be done even without that grant, but boy, that would sure help, so.
Yeah, we don't wanna do that.
It's a 40-year loan, right?
40-year loan, yeah.
I have a question on that. I think we should go back to police, I guess they're our engineer on this, and get another quote and have it reviewed by, I don't know who's supposed to review it, if it's Mike or if it's that authority, that lead building authority, whoever. If we need to cut some stuff or what, but a $3 million building for that, there's gotta be some ways that we could cut costs on that.
I think this is fairly bare bones. I mean, Mike turned down a lot of things that they were originally proposing for this project. I won't say that you can't cut a little bit of money out of it, but I doubt you could accomplish a whole lot. Which is not to say that I don't agree with you.
I'd like
I
to
do
see,
agree with you.
I'd like to see the design of what they're building for that much money.
Yeah.
Have we ever seen them?
No.
Yeah, I'd like to see what we're spending $3 million bucks on.
My understanding of the process is they have to get the budget around, which I'm not understanding how we can get a budget around without a design. But we have to get the budget around, get the loan approved before we can get the engineers and the NFPA people to tell us what is required in a fire station building in order to get a final cost. But the last estimate, when they came to you guys and you approved, I think it was 3.2, 1.5 of that was the congressional, and then the rest of it was in the RD, Rural Development Loan. That was supposed to be projected through 2026. So I think we're still in that window. I don't think it should go much more than what we're looking at right now.
But if we don't start moving along on this,
We're gonna end up paying twice as much. Next.
Other comments?
So who reviews this when you meet with police? Just you and police? Is there anybody else reviewing it with you?
I'm not sure how to answer that question. It wasn't just police and me, there were several people involved in the conversation, but, I don't know what else to say in response.
I mean, anybody else from the village that has knowledge of how to build or what's being built or what needs to be built?
Have you seen the design? Any design?
Not a blueprint design. I saw a laid out, kind of a floor plan, for lack of a better word, of a projection where they would get the square feet, because they're pricing this budget off of a per square foot cost. And then once the funding and everything's approved, then we come down and I say, no, I need this room to be bigger, move the bathroom over here, that kind of stuff. But as far as saying, this is what the building's gonna look like, no, we have not got that.
Do they come to you and ask you specifications, like I need floor heat, or I need,
Yeah, we've already gone through that part of what, they gave me basically a questionnaire on how many personnel, how many trucks, you know, the type of runs and the equipment we have, so that they could design a building. Floor plan, blueprint, no, but kinda like a drawing, like a rendering, but nothing specific to that point. Because the one they gave me, we talked about it before, they had a lobby in it, we don't have anybody that comes into our door like a lobby like this, we don't need that. And they said we could use that floor space, cause I need another office over here for this, or move a training room over here, that type of stuff would be after the funding. Because they don't wanna go through and charge you guys for an engineer to do the design build of it, and then the funding fall through. So you have the cost of an engineer's design.
so was floor heat one of the,
No, we took the floor heat out,
so $3 million and you only have floor heat?
right?
You can build a hell of a nice barn for $3 million. I don't know, Thomas guy just spent $1 million on a building that you could park every fire truck in the county in. But, okay, go ahead.
Does it have to be a brick building?
It's not.
It's not a brick building?
No, it's a similar building type as like White Pigeon has. Pole barn construction with offices in it off one side.
Wow.
Started at 1.6. 4 years ago, 5 years ago.
Okay. Moving on to new business, council meeting rules. Nothing in the packet on that, was there?
No, this was. Don asked me to.
I suggest that we change when the public comment is put at the end of the meeting, after we've already made our decisions. And I also think that during their 3 minutes, they should be allowed to ask questions, as long as it's within their 3 minutes. We can't guarantee them an answer, but it's their 3 minutes, they should ask, if they wanna ask a question, they should be able to. I mean, that's kinda what most people want, right? Well, I don't think that's I don't agree with any of this, but I don't think people should be restricted, but if they're gonna be restricted, I think we need to make these changes. I understand the need for it, but
I agree with the change of making the public comment at the bottom, but I do agree, or I do think the 3 minute, I mean, have you listened to any of the Congress, any of those, that stuff that they do when they're confirming someone? They have a 5 minute limit. That's in Congress and the Senate. They're not just able to talk and talk and talk, they have a limit. And it should be limited, because right now it's already 8:45. Not that it matters what time we get out of here, but some of the stuff that we were hearing back and forth between the audience, it was uncontrolled was what it was.
More of
Now
a
that-
debate,
What?
more like a
Yeah.
debate.
And it wasn't, a lot of it wasn't even with us, it was people in the audience, and 3 minutes, they should be able to give their comments, ask a question if they want, and be done.
I agree that we should maintain the 3 minutes, but I think they should be able to ask questions.
Can I say something? You can also ask them to email your manager and ask them questions too, rather than asking them here so they can get a.
I get email questions a lot. But, I mean, those are the 2 changes I would like to see. I don't know how anybody else feels about it, but I think those are reasonable.
Sounds reasonable to me.
Is that a motion?
Do we have, you wanna have discussion first, or do you want me to just make a motion?
Make a motion,
Anybody else?
and then we can discuss.
I make a motion that we change the public comment to the end of the meeting, so people have heard what we've made, decisions have made, and I think that they should be able to ask questions during their 3 minute. With a limit of 3 minutes is fine, but they should be able to ask a question.
Well, we're not required to answer them anyway.
Well, if it's an unreasonable question, then don't answer it. But if it's a lot of the questions we get are just general questions. But we don't have to answer it. But they should be told they can't ask it, to me. I sat out there and asked questions and nobody's answered it, but I still got the right to ask my question. So I guess that's how I feel.
If you wanna open it up to allow them to ask questions, which is okay. The issue is how you handle it as a board. As a board, no debate from each individual should come back. In other words, all you as you as the president would say, thank you, Mr. So-so, we'll get back to you on that with an answer. And then someone is delegated to answer at a later time. Otherwise, you're gonna be here till midnight, answering questions. So,
Well, I mean,
You have 3 minutes.
realistically, you have 3 minutes after your 3 minutes are up. You can only get one chance at it per meeting, so we're not gonna be here till midnight for that. Unless it's some crazy issue like we've had in the past where there's 30 people in here that wanna talk. But if it's that important, huh?
Even 5 people, it adds up after a while, I mean.
yeah.
But we're here to serve the people, we're not,
I know that.
I don't disagree with Mark said when he wanted these rules, but I disagree with some of the way I don't feel that we should snub them by just going, you're not gonna ask us any questions.
No, I agree with that.
It's hard too, as to when you have the discussion with the audience. I mean, if you have it before, you vote and everything, then you get opinions, but if you wait until at the end, it's all done. You know, this is what we did, now you have 3 minutes to talk about it. But if you do it at the beginning, you say, okay, you have 3 minutes on something we're gonna vote later, and, you know, who knows what we're even voting on at that point.
The majority of the things we've heard is, we'd rather do it at the end, in my opinion.
Yeah, I feel like
How
I've heard
about-
that a lot.
You're talking about the audience?
Yeah, general feedback, yeah.
What's the audience think? Becky?
My suggestion is that you read and study the state law on the Open Meetings Act before you make your decisions.
I think you should give a 2-minute time at the beginning for questions and then a 2-minute time at the end for public comment. Split it up.
The recommendation by the state is to give extended time at the end of the meeting.
You'll be adding 1 extra minute if you do it that way.
It's recommended,
Yeah.
correct? So,
During that training that we had, I remember Julie saying, and she did say that 3 minutes is the amount that should be allotted. But she did say that public comment shouldn't be restricted, because ours is restricted that things that aren't on the agenda, which I never agreed with. Why would you have to restrict it with something that's not on the agenda? They should, because you always say you can talk about anything that's not on the agenda. So it's like, why not say, do you want to discuss anything that we have on the agenda, and then give them a 3-minute, or they could wait till the end and say, okay, make your comment then. I'm assuming most people are here because of what's on the agenda.
I don't think so.
We don't know till we get here.
That's what I'm saying, we don't know what's on the agenda until we're here.
Right. We're here because we care.
So, I come and I see what's on the agenda and I have an opinion. And I can't express that until the very end after everybody's voted on it. I don't think that's what we wanna do.
The agenda is on the village website. It goes
I
on
can't find that, I've tried several times and I
That's
cannot.
because we hid it.
Oh, clearly,
It is on the village website. It's also, we send it to the news, but I don't think they necessarily publish that all the time. I don't think that they can get important stuff. How about if I make this offer? If you want a copy of the agenda in advance,
Yes, please.
I'll get it to you. And to anybody, if you have an email, you want me to send it to you, I'm happy to send it to
Well,
you.
I can
Angie
pick
does
it
that
up
on Facebook.
during the day. Day, you know, the day of the meeting, I can come over and get it.
Okay. Now, the agenda tends to be not cast in stone. Some things might be added, some things might be deleted, but for the most part, what you see is what's going to happen at the meeting, so. I say, if anybody here wants a copy of that, email to them, I'm happy to do that. I could just have a long list of, and I'd type the message out once and send it, so. Or, check our village website, and I'll be candid with you, I have a hard time finding that too. I just don't ever have occasion to look for it, so when I do it.
I think I did find it one time, but
It's always odd to me though, I mean, if you wanna comment on something and you have an audience participation before you hear about it, how do you even, have a real good opinion, but if you wait till the end after it's all done, then it's done. Kind of
I don't know the answer. I don't.
I've heard numerous people say it should be at the end. I don't care when you do it, I gotta hear it either way. But I've heard numerous people say they would prefer it be at the end, that's why I suggest.
Well, if you're looking for input, it isn't gonna serve any purpose at the end. But if you just want their feedback, then it's at the end.
The law recommends the 3-minute within the meeting. And at the conclusion of the meeting,
I knew she was gonna say that.
comments without necessarily a time limit.
I know why we made these rules, and I don't have a problem with hardly any of them, but the only one, and I just said it before, the people in the audience that debate amongst each other and talk and talk and talk, and don't pay any attention to actually what's going on in our meeting. That is what's so disturbing, to me anyway. It's unnecessary. That's not what this meeting is about. It's about what's on the agenda and what we're discussing. And so, that was in here.
That and interrupting, not waiting to be recognized before they start speaking. I said it before and I meant exactly what I said. The people in the audience were hijacking the meetings, making them go twice as long as they should, sometimes longer than that. And it was difficult to get business accomplished.
I agree that they shouldn't be able to just throw stuff out without being recognized. I just don't think we should limit their input, that's all.
That's when the village president bangs his gavel and says point of order, and you go right back to what you're supposed to be doing.
It's nice in theory, but it
Yeah,
doesn't work.
I know, but
So,
Use a gag.
You need to just act like you're mad at your kid and go, I'm enough.
yep.
Or, when you look at your kid and say, I said now.
You know, in this meeting that we had, in this training that we had over in Centerville, there was quite a few of us there, but she also did say, and I am glad I didn't hear it before the meeting, because there was some nights in here I would have done it. She said that if there's something interrupting your meeting, whether it's the audience or who, you can say, this meeting is adjourned and we're done. We're out the door.
The president of the council has a lot of power if he wants to use it. And
Yep.
I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but there are times where you do need to be
Yep.
an asshole and go, stop, we're done, I'm not doing that anymore. And you do that sometimes, but I think you need to do it, control more of the meeting, and that will eliminate a lot of the problems we have. So,
We've heard enough from you now.
I want people to vote on my motion.
Becky, one more minute.
I think I recall that if there is a situation where someone is interrupting the meeting and causing a disturbance, that they can be removed from the meeting actually as an arrest.
They can be.
That's why we have a police department. One and a half.
Alright, let's adjourn the meeting at 8:50.
Oh, you have the golf cart ordinance.
What?
The golf cart ordinance that
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. I'm the president, I'm gonna, no. Okay, golf cart ordinance.
You got Parks and Recreation.
Parks and Rec.
So we're not gonna vote on changing the rules.
Okay, made the motion.
Was there a second?
No.
I'll second it.
Oh, yeah, read the motion.
King made a motion to make a public comment question to the end after discussion for 3 minutes.
And they're allowed to ask questions during their time.
Yeah, a comment or questions, yeah.
At the end. It's always been one that confused me, 'cause at the end, it serves no purpose,
Right.
you know, or you're yelled at because you did it. Okay.
They yelled at
But
anyway.
if you have it at the beginning,
There's a lot of times until I hear something, I don't have the question, but hearing
That's true.
something being said brings a question to mind.
Well, we can always change it later down the road.
so the motion was to move public hearing to the end.
Mhm.
And be allowed to have questions.
And question.
And you have comment and questions.
During their 3-minute limited time.
Yeah, for 3 minutes.
And hopefully the last question is instead of complaining.
Call roll, please?
Piper?
Yes.
She Mathers?
No.
Lawrence?
No.
King?
Yes.
Steers?
Yes.
Denman?
No.
And Mathers?
No.
3 to 4.
Okay.
Three yeses, 3 noes.
As it is.
Yeah.
So we keep it where it's at. Okay. Anything else come to the council tonight? Yeah. Golf course.
No.
Parks
and Rec.
Parks and Rec first.
I got my, see, I can't even read it anymore. What do we have?
Constantine Parks and Rec audit report.
Oh, okay. Now,
Oh, that's,
just,
all that is a memo,
Okay.
just for your advice.
it was a very nice letter from Parks and Rec. Okay.
But there's still one more thing on the agenda.
I asked, put that on there, I think we should, I don't know how we do it, change the ordinance. And we have way too many kids hanging off golf carts. They should have their seatbelts if they're under the age of 16. And there's not a golf cart out there you can't put seatbelts on. I haven't put on mine because my grandkids ride around with us and they're not allowed to hang off the back. You see 5, 6-year-old kids hanging on the back of a golf cart and the people driving aren't even looking back. See it all the time. Because my wife drives that golf cart every day. And the other thing is, in our ordinance, it says 30 minutes before dusk. Why can't we just set a time? You have to have them off the street. Like 8 or 9 o'clock on weekdays, 10 o'clock on weekends. They gotta have lights. That's required in order to drive it on the street. I mean, and they do it anyway. Unfortunately, they do it anyway. So I just thought maybe the biggest to me is the safety part. I think we should change to that anybody under the age of 16 that's riding on there needs to be seatbelted. And it's not that expensive to have seatbelts.
We also see a lot of kids driving them.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's only gonna be,
And the law is,
they,
they have to be licensed drivers.
But
I agree.
kids driving them all the time.
Would you be willing to have a committee or at least sit down and make some notations?
Yeah, I was gonna ask how we change the ordinance. How-
Contact Catherine Coughlin and have her, Catherine or somebody from
With our,
Boston, Ralph, Urban. That's old and date.
with our suggestion.
Well, yeah, well, ask them, yeah, what can and can't be done legally, and, to
What does our police
to
chief
draft an amendment to the ordinance.
recommend?
Seatbelts are always good.
There's way too many kids on back of golf carts.
I can't imagine either of those things would be a problem. The one I would be a little bit concerned about is after dusk, but 10 o'clock at night in the summertime,
On a weekend, I said maybe 8 or 9 during the week, but
yeah.
they're required to have lights. I mean, I spent a lot of money on my golf cart, and I never get to drive in the dark. Well, I'm like,
That's a Cadillac.
expensive, well, that's my wife, not me, but I think if, put limits on it, but you gotta have lights to drive them anyways. And, I don't know.
And a license.
Well, yeah, I'm not asking to change anything for the driver. I just think you should be able to be out a little bit. There's been more than once where we've gone somewhere and like, we gotta take the golf cart home and bring the car back. And to me, that's kinda ridiculous on the weekends, but put a time limit on it. But everybody thinks it's a good time.
Do you wanna talk to Roxanne first, or have a couple guys put some things down on paper and send to her?
Either way, if anybody has something specific they want to add or delete, let me know, and when I consult the attorney, I'll present her with those things, so.
I'll email you the 2 things I'd like to see changed, and just see, so you can answer.
If you have something that you would like to see changed or added or omitted, email Mark.
My opinion was, why do we have to consult an attorney on this? Isn't there a different legal way that we can look into it without having to pay an attorney cost?
Well, there's not a way, I wouldn't feel comfortable drafting an ordinance, so there's not a way to accomplish that really without having an attorney do it. I could write the language up, and it might take a little less time to do it, but it's gonna cost us money regardless, if you want to amend an ordinance.
It shouldn't be that expensive, just to change the words, to add one thing and change the times.
And then how much they have to look into it.
I'd say, if you get an opportunity to look at the ordinance, and if you have something, put it down on paper and
Okay.
give it to Mark.
I'll do that.
Talk to Roxanne.
I don't want to see any typos in what you said.
You want me to be nice, you want me to say what I think? But yeah, I'll get that to you.
Thank you.
All right. Are we ready to adjourn now, so I can go home and have supper? Is there anything else? Okay, we'll adjourn the meeting at 9:01 PM. Thanks, everybody.
I asked him bedtime.
Is that easier than just using my?
You know where it came from. Procedures, you gotta follow procedures.
That's fine, I'll do that. I also know that they can automatically.